Hello, everybody. Welcome to the early edition of Foggy and Friends. We set this up specifically for our friends across the Atlantic, so I hope that some of you guys will show up. Um, this was supposedly a better time of day for you, so you don't have to be up in the middle of the night. We understand that, and in an effort to please, here we are. So I mentioned, excuse me, in forums that this would just kind of be. Um, just kind of an open mic thing for you guys, specifically the Brits. If you have some stuff that you'd like to come in and express, there'll be plenty of time for that. Otherwise, we just have a few items on tap. We first I wanted to start off with revisiting some of the polls that we had earlier in the forums, and thank you. That's her leaving for camp. Got a little kissy on the way out. That was your adult entertainment for the thing. So the first thing we spoke briefly before we went on the air. The first thing was the extended season. Now, did you see how this poll worked out, Steve? There were
Yeah,
votes. There were,
yeah.
was this the
So,
one that was 14-5?
well, we had 14 to keep it current.
Mm,
We had 2 votes to go to a 6-month season and 7 votes to go to a 1-year season.
ridiculous. Now somebody needs to come on and defend that.
Yeah, I would love
One of
to.
those seven
Yeah,
need
I
to
would
come on.
love to see one of those 7 come on and give their point of view on that. I have a little bit of an idea what they're looking at, but it's a virtual computer game, so. Um, I understand people want to try and mimic real horse racing as best they can, but I think for the playability of the game, I don't think it's reasonable, to be honest with you.
I agree 100%. I don't want to wait, you know, 20 days for my horse to cycle or to be ready to race again. That seems insane to me. What do you? I don't see how we gain anything you by going with the realism thing. You well, it would breed. Okay, again, it's always the answer is volume. If you have enough horses to,
Right, and I don't know how a small stable would be able to survive in a 1 year.
I don't. Yeah,
I mean, your budget is your budget, right? So
sure.
if you've got to stretch that budget over 1 year, I mean, I don't know how that would be. It would be snoozeville. I mean, you'd be bored with waiting every 20 days, all that. That.
It's terrible. Well,
Now
that's what I'm
I
saying. If you have enough horses where you can race one every day, I guess that kind of
Yeah,
offsets
but
that.
that's
But
the thing. Racing one every day is not sufficient for even a small
no,
stable. Even a small stable wants to see 4 or 5 of his horses or more come to post every
mm,
day. I mean, I know that's how I am, and I run on 60, 70 horses for a season active total and maybe only 50 racing at the height.
but
So,
but
Okay,
seven
I'm the
people voted for
counterpoint.
that.
I'm the
Go ahead. Go
counterpoint.
ahead.
Okay.
Counterpoint.
Um, so you have to remember when you buy horses every season, you have a budget. Well, now you're going to have 3 times that budget. So you should
Correct.
have 3 times as many horses to run,
Yeah.
unless you decide to spend the same amount of money because you only want 2-year olds that are fresh at the beginning of the season. You don't want to buy it 3-4 months in. But I also think there were other items on that 1 year to discuss, which was how often when you would actually start being able to run races at a further distance than 4 or 5 furlongs. So I think there's more to it than just all of a sudden the calendar is a year. I think there's some other things that
yeah,
have to pull up, but maybe Steve can.
there's some
Go into
2-year-old training restrictions that were caveats for that 1 year. 2-year-old available first month of New Year, three furlong training restriction until February, 5 furlong training available in February as well. So
Mm,
yeah, there was some caveats in there, but you know on a small stable, just to revisit that real quick, I understand it would be 3 times the budget, but that's assuming that small stable has that budget available. Like I I, I know I run, and I mean my stable is self-supporting, but I mean it takes a little bit of work to make it that way, but it kind of supports itself. So I very rarely deposit, but I don't think.
Well, I guess what I was saying is there's two things. No one says you have to buy all your 2-year-olds in the first month either.
Well,
So
that's true.
like it gives you the ability every month to add fresh 2-year-olds.
Yeah, but if you wait too long, those restrictions on training and stuff, you won't be able to get them on the track in time.
No, from I believe from the first and second month. It's not every first and second month. It's just the first and second month. So if you get one in March, you can already start going beyond the. I'd have to go back and read it.
Well, let's go calendar year. So January to December. So after what would it be, about September or October? You can't buy 2-year-olds anymore because you won't actually have time to get them on the track.
I'm not
True or
following
no?
that.
Well, no. So, it's not individual horses the way I'm reading it. The idea, I mean, and granted, these ideas aren't going to be taking place. I think we're going to be staying with our current thing. So, but continuing to dive into it, I think it's 3 furlong training restriction until February. I don't believe he's saying it's a 2-month restriction per horse, no matter where that horse is born during the course of the year. The way I'm reading it would have been after February. It would have been, you can train 5 furlongs and whatever, however you want to train after the
That's
first
if
2
your
months
horse
of the
was
season.
born in January, correct? If it was
No.
born first of the year.
No. January and February are reserved for those days. I think what Steve's saying is it doesn't mean if your horse was born in July that it can't do anything until September.
Oh, okay.
But, I mean, I don't know. We never really. It was never a. It was more of a poll to get a feeling of what the community was thinking. There's no way he's going to implement it, right now. He would have to really go through stuff. But I think, he's always wanting to know what do people want? Are you okay with the 4-month, 6 month, 1 year? Because people talk about, we always talk about, mimicking real. No. Well, to mimic real, if you really want to mimic real, then you have a year, which gives you full season for Triple Crown and Breeders' Cup. You have a lot longer thing. But I agree with both of you. I voted for the current layout, and my main thing is because I like to breed, and I like to know that I can breed a horse within 8 months of it being born or less. And the thought of waiting 2 years to be able to breed with a good horse is scary to me. But
I challenge the guys who voted for a year. They don't have the patience, I don't think, to go a year. The very fact that they want to change the format, which is kind of tried and true, sort of means that they're less tolerant or they're impatient. So I don't think they're going to be any happier with a year. But anyway, like you said, he's not going to do it. I don't know why you would have a poll about something you're never going to do. But
because you always want to get the.
You like to get the pulse.
Yeah.
No, I sort of get it, but okay. In the meantime, Steve brought up something that maybe would make even more sense. I don't know because I haven't digested it. But what if we went to a 3-month season and condensed it a tiny bit further? And let's drop the realism part of it. Okay, we're just not going to achieve that time wise. But I think the game comes pretty darn close.
How about 6? Let's talk about 6 because it was in there.
6? Well, all right, but I want to revisit 3 because that makes sense.
All right, that might make sense. 3. We'll do 3.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about the ones that are actually in the poll.
When I brought up 3, it was, and I even said this, it was more from a small, stable, selfish type perspective because I can't continually replenish my horses over the course of a season. So for the first 2 months of the season is my biggest buying period or breeding period. Lately, it's been breeding homebred, but like I said, I have 70 active horses in my stable. Maybe 15 of those are 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds just sitting there waiting to retire.
Yeah.
And 45 of them, 50 of them, or whatever the case may be, are sitting there available to run, and maybe 30 run, 35. So
yeah, you made a good point though earlier. Is if you're going to have horses that are predetermined to run out of gas at a certain point, then elongating the season makes zero sense. But maybe shortening it would give you some more life, like they would be
Well,
more,
again, you can't run them as often if you elongate the season.
yeah,
Correct.
that was built in there for sure. But I don't know. I can't figure out how to stretch my horses out. I mean, of course, there's the couple of exceptions here and there, but I've tried racing a horse 8 times in the season. I've tried racing a horse 15 to 20 times in the season, and the result is very similar. So,
Well, Steve, don't forget now that you are running them that heavy to score as many points so they make the finals.
right.
Under the new format, you don't have to run them that often.
well, that's true, but not all my horses are running for finals.
Right,
You know,
but when you
so-
say all my horses run out of gas, a lot of those are.
I preface that by saying that I do have some exceptions, but
heard
they're far and few between.
Well, Lee, you love to say your horses go 4 races and then they're done. Well, so
My homebreds.
would a 3-month season help remedy that at all? Do you think? Or
No.
Okay.
I breed crap, and it's
Well,
crap's
no,
gonna keep
that's
being
come on,
crap.
that's nonsense.
I breed claimers, Foggy.
You've sold me plenty of decent horses.
I
from
guess
the
my
ring.
point is in the last month of the season, other than the finals or BC races or whatever I've qualified for, my racing is very sparse. And
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. He needs to create opportunities in that last month. Have the last month be a big splash with auctions, with contests, with all kinds of crap to fill in. If you've got a dead month, you have to make something of it. So everybody loves series here. Everybody is crazy for series. So another late season series might be the answer. And because I think behind the scenes, it's all about having stables continue to be active with their breeding. So you have to create opportunities that horses bred later in the season can take part in. Because now, for instance, we've all got, well, not all of us, but we have these real good horses that came out of the group with rhythm and so on, and none of them are eligible for any of the series. Can't get there from here, and I don't know if that's that sends a lot of horses out.
That does mimic
out of contention.
That does mimic real. Like, you can't. Obviously, real life's different because most of the foals are born at the same time. But same thing though. You have to get points to get in the Derby and Preakness and all that. So
right.
Any horse that's a late bloomer isn't going to qualify for the lead up races, or is it going to be injured?
And they're probably not going to accrue enough points to get into the BC thinning. So
yeah,
we end up where we are. We hope for a nice race on World Race Day, World Series Day.
Yeah,
and
there's what 20 some races that day that are stakes races that are. So there's a lot.
I think that's good too. He's always been ambitious about that.
Yeah.
Trying to get stuff to. And I should just mention the first thing I got was that we were very hostile. Bobby put in the comments.
No, I put that in.
Oh, you did?
I wanted to let you know that you're safe from Bob because he's at a soccer tournament.
So
he won't be coming in.
All right.
So I'm playing the role of Bob.
All right. So the other poll, because I think we took, unless you have any last thoughts on that.
I had one thing.
Go ahead.
But it's been brought up, I'm sure, but I haven't heard it in a while. Because you said something about featuring homebreds. We should have series for homebreds only.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
idea.
It's not now. It kind of makes it sound like an inferior series. It's like, oh, you can't have sales ring horses in it. So it might have the wrong stigma attached to it, but it might be kind of interesting. It'd be another series that it would have unique characteristics instead of the same as earn points for this. You still earn points, but it would be unique, just like the under 99s. But anyway, I'm
Or
sure it's been
homebreeds.
brought up, and
I like that actually. That's another level that you could incorporate into it that I don't believe it hurts necessarily any of the other stuff. If you have a terrific homebred, you can still race it against whoever you want.
right.
Not at all,
But the homebreds could have
especially if that homebred goes on to win, open company, stakes races as well. I mean, that's an even better endorsement for the homebred program, So,
but it's also another place to dump your champions when there's not a proper race for them, which is an ongoing problem. Like people dropping into lower allowance races. This would afford the same type of thing. It's kind of class relief against open company, and they're going to be dropping their horses in. Do you think that's going to mess things up?
No, I mean, I would hope not, but I mean, if it's within the rules, it's within the rules. I complain about it more than anybody, but when it comes down to it, it's not against the rules. So, but I didn't mean to interject into.
So we just kind of added another rule to break. I like it though. I should say no. I'm just saying.
Break. It's not
I'm just saying. I like the idea. I think homebreds only makes sense, but it causes conversation about a bigger issue that I just want to touch on. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but homebreds, as of a couple of years ago, not just seasons, but homebreds were intended to carry the flag forward. The only thing that the sales ring was supposed to provide, it was never to get better horses or champions. It was to get undiluted breeding lines. Okay. And it does provide that, but it also has provided a class of horse, generally speaking, that's better than the homebreds. And this was never supposed to be this way. Now, he's made a number of different adjustments to this, and still is I don't know, he's up against it because he can't figure out how to make that the way it was supposed to be. Homebreds were supposed to take over the lead as far as the quality of horses, and that still hasn't happened. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? It doesn't necessarily.
It's a bad thing for breeders, but
yeah,
I think I look at the sales ring different, and I could be wrong. I'm thinking the sales ring was projected to give you decent horses when there were no opportunities to breed decent horses a couple of years ago because there was a lack of sharing. But it was put out there in the belief that you would get that occasional monster,
and that's fine. That's fine, but
it's the other thing.
It's eclipsed the whole level underneath it, the homebreds. Although some people have terrific homebred horses, I don't know that it's fair to say across the board that the homebreds aren't as good. I'd love to see some data on that if that's possible.
Well,
our sales ring, because once you have your first sales ring horse, now all of a sudden you've incorporated that bloodline into your homebreds, and in theory they should begin to improve.
Well, I mean,
and maybe they have. Go ahead.
I think that the sales ring number one was meant for new players to be able to compete right away. I think that's all that was. The sales ring was a way for a new player to come in and within a week or two be competing with everybody else. Now, as far as homebreds go, I mean, the majority of my stable this season was homebreds. And, I had a decent season. And, in our discussion with Poncho yesterday, we see that the majority of his stable are homebreds. And he's our season leader in most respects.
And Eddie's always right there.
But you have to remember, you can't have a stable full of homebreds until you develop a breeding program. And the only way you're going to develop a breeding program is to get horses when you first come on And when
Correct.
you get a horse, when you first come on, you have an option between a sales ring horse for $15
Mhm.
or paying $10 for a sire, $10 for a mare, 7 to
Right.
breed to get a decent horse. So you're going to get sales ring horses. Now,
Yeah.
I could pretty much assume that one issue with the sales ring is we are all smart. And I don't think, now it's not as much as a sales ring issue, more of a blue ticket issue is we all watch the times, we see what combo was born, and we go buy a blue ticket, and
Yeah.
that combo gets eight offspring. So I don't think that was the intention of the sales ring, which is more caused by the blue ticket. But
Mm.
um,
It was. I remember specific. It was to provide bloodlines that are different from the ones already existing because those were just completely diluted down.
yeah, I mean, I'll make no bones about it. And if I offend someone, so be it. It came about when I first came, because I was talking to a person that just came over
Mm-hmm.
who was frustrated that he had no way to acquire a decent horse. And from what I've been told, I could be wrong, like someone could have told me wrong, is the top breeders on the site kept everything close to themselves. So it was either release some breeds or I will fix it and put competitive horses out there in the sales ring. And I guess, again, I'm not taking sides on this. This is just what I was
No,
told.
it's just discussion. It's all good.
I was told that the warning was not heeded, and therefore sales ring were created. Now, maybe they still would have been created. I don't know, but I can see why, because people come on a site just like other sites that I've been on, and you get your ass stomped for 2 years. You run around begging someone to give you a breed off something, and it's just no way to build a stable, right, wrong, or other. That's just the way it is. And what Steve said, a new stable comes in, has a shot at some horses. I don't think it was intended that a new stable comes in and wins 8 stake races in its first month because it gets, what he calls bangers. But so I think it was a mixture. And I do know from discussions on Discord in, the live chat that he is all about homebreds. So if there's an issue with homebreds, you can pretty much bet. And if he was here, we could ask him. But
no.
Okay. I'm sure he'd come on and tell you he's constantly monitoring homebreds, and there are stats per se on top sires, top mares, that type of thing, and you can tell if they're homebreds or not. But there is no overall. He could produce it, I'm sure, but giant stat on. Here's how each have performed. But also, let's be honest. The allure of the sales ring is that you're breeding from horses you've all heard about for the most part. Who doesn't want a secretariat, right?
Right.
Okay.
But what does he do, just from a public relations standpoint, when he says that the sales ring is far superior to any homebreds and so on? So you can forget about anybody buying our breeds off the public sales page if he tells everybody they're crap.
When you're gonna have to cite me an example. I did not know that was ever stated.
I'm not familiar with that.
That the sales rings are better.
Oh, he said that. He says that over and over. That's his mission. His whole mission now is to get the homebreds up on an even or better par than the sales ring, which by definition means that the sales ring is much better than the homebreds. And so by stating that publicly, he absolutely short circuits any work that we want to do selling breeds.
Well, I think he's responding to those of us who say that same thing. It's like, okay, I hear you. Let me look at the numbers, and you guys are right. So let me do something about it. But you can't just push a button and it happen overnight.
No,
you gotta develop bloodlines that are developing bloodlines and attributes.
But haven't we been here long enough? Haven't we been here long enough to produce all those? This has been now what, 2 or 3 seasons with the sales ring?
Yes, but you breed a horse and you don't breed off of it. So you get a new horse, he thinks he puts. I mean, you don't start breeding it the minute it's a foal. So
No.
it takes 8 months before you figure out if what changes he puts in actually are improving the breeding.
Yeah.
And they are. Let's not make it sound like we're breeding crap. I mean, we're all constantly bragging about the I just bred a 105, a 106, a 5X, a 4. So
Yeah. Yeah.
let's, and I'm the worst one, to be honest with you. I joke about my horses. Hope you got, a good race out of their first 4. I'm not serious, but some of them do seem that way. But hey, you know what? Some do, in the hands of other trainers, seem they do much better. So I think I don't think it's not an easy balancing act, in my opinion. So, and I know I sound so pro site all the time, but I just think that having a history of working on projects that I knew weren't going to take place, like acquisitions and things, for quite some time, you realize that everything isn't cured overnight. And unfortunately, by the time you see some results, you have to start working on updates again. And then, you got to wait again for a time period to see if it works. So just my 7 cents.
So the sales ring started what, 3 seasons ago? 4?
Late January of 2020.
Oh wow, really?
Yes.
So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
several seasons,
7, 8 seasons we've had that now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did you remember the whole Secretariat Ruffian?
Yeah. That was the first round of it.
What was the one that was such a killer? Anyway, that was, but there was only like 10 and 10, if I remember right. I don't think there were 20 and 20. But.
Okay, so polls notwithstanding, all right, now we're going to have a pair of one-person polls. Okay, I'm your genie in a bottle today.
Thank you.
What change would you like to see that I can go poof and it'll make, but it's got to make sense. I mean, it's got to be a good change. It's got to make sense. What would you like to see? Go ahead. Who's ready? Steve, you want to go first?
I think it would be, gosh, and I don't know how you would do it, but I think it would be to have some kind of better grasp of the endurance of a horse and the effects of a race on that endurance. For me. Now, like I said, I don't know exactly how that could be done, but I sure would like a better predictor of the lifespan of a horse.
A predictor.
I mean, not it doesn't have.
So maybe
to be,
some kind of a graph on the side of the thing, and when as the horse loses a bit of life, it comes down, so you can see it as you go, like your gas tank, basically.
Yeah, maybe. And like I said, I haven't really thought about it too much, to be honest with you, but that's the biggest issue I have with my stable is just predicting lifespan of a horse and trying to measure it out to.
How about if you regain some life?
Potential.
If you train your horse properly and you race him where he belongs racing, he gains a little bit of life back as you treat him right. You're treating your horse properly. And he responds
sending him
by
to the spa, get some race
you
or
could
two
do
back.
spend a little money, send it to the spa, let it swim a bit, and then it gains a race. Why doesn't that make sense? It generates money for the site, and they gain a little bit of life. That's a good one. All right, Lee, what do you got? What can I go poof right now?
Mine is around the breeding. I like the new breeding limits, but I wish we weren't held to a limit per season.
Wait, what are the breeding limits?
Well, they up to 30 for a mare, 45 for a sire, from 15 to 30 for a mare. Twice as many breeds. Problem is, I still got to wait to use them all. And I mean, you can use 10 instead of 5, but typically what I'm finding, and maybe that'll change, is by the time I get to that last set of breeds, I've moved on to other horses.
Mm.
Maybe that's just me, but so I have horses now, sires that I didn't touch last season that I probably would have bred with. I understand why it's limits have to be there, because you don't want someone banging out 10 of the same horse and having them all kick ass, or 8 of the 10 or whatever. But it would be interesting if you could do, like, I guess the mares aren't so much, even though I constantly run out of mares, but I'd like to be able to use my sire like 20 times and my mare 15. But
so you're looking to tweak the limits a little bit. That's not a big ask. That's the best you could do of something that I could change for you.
Well, what's yours?
Huh?
What's yours?
That's a good question, and I figured I was going to be asking you, so I didn't come up with one.
Well, I think what we figured out here, though, is that
no, I know
that,
mine.
I know what yours is.
I'm
Tell
not
me
gonna,
all the information
yes,
that you can.
I just want information. That's all.
Changes to the current structure is not as easy as you might think.
No, it's not.
When especially you get put on the spot. Hey, what's that one change you want to see?
Yeah.
It's not that simple. So in a way, I definitely admire what Bob has been trying to do and the direction he takes the site in. He definitely has an idea, but just our little discussion there shows you how hard it is to actually not only come up with changes that could be really beneficial to the site, but how to implement them. It's not that simple.
Yeah, you have to have the devil on the shoulder that points out the risk. Everything sounds great, especially by the person suggesting it, because it's what they want. Then you don't, like in my case.
But typically, nobody has any idea the amount of work that'll go into a change. Like you might suggest a very small, what seems like a very small innocuous, and it takes an enormous amount of programming. And
so, look at the current thing. He tried to do something good by increasing the breeding, and in the background, the programmers having all kinds of issues making it happen. So that's what his messages the last day or so were, that he's almost got it cleaned up. So right. I mean, that was the season or last season. I can't remember when it went in, but and then look at what it's cost him in time and money. When he probably could have been working on some other things too. But I have others, Foggy. You put me on the spot like that. Like I understand. I guess, and I showed that I can't answer on the spot like that.
Doesn't mean I'm going to stop asking you though.
I know.
So okay. So let's assume that we have to work within the system we have. So my tip is, after the conversation about the sales ring, is there are other horses that are looming out there. Like, I don't know where Man of War came from. I'm not so sure that it was that one that was the way. I think it might have been this Global Trot, but I don't know that because I haven't used either of them like effectively, or just they weren't on my radar. Because Man of War has been around forever, and I always said, oh boy, here's breed the Man of War when I had breeds to sell or whatever, and it's just other horses are in there. You have to be vigilant. Like you said, keep track of the workout time, see who landed a monster, see the combinations. And then if you want to take a shot at it, you go ahead. That's how you acquire talent. It's costly sometimes, but you have to be vigilant on that stuff. So the last group, the Trillion group, I'm going to touch on that real quickly. I should let everybody know I have offers into to both owners of multiple ones of those to buy their horses. So in case they haven't seen the message, because neither of them answered, I'm still interested. But here's the update. Okay.
I answered.
I didn't ask you. Oh, yes, I did. Yeah. About Disco.
Yeah. Big fat.
Right. I don't blame you. But here's why. Because so last week I was crowing that mine's probably the best, but somebody else just showed up. There's a new leader in the thing, and your 2 record-setting races in a row, I think, puts Disco at the front of the pack going forward. If we're gonna, if we're going to guess who's the talent. The only thing I hope is that these horses, not just mine, but the other ones in the group, I'm hoping for some diversity so that we don't always have to run, bumping heads against each other. But yeah, there definitely is until somebody steps up and takes over. Like we still haven't seen Supersize. I'd like to see a second race from Rhythm and Blues on the turf to get a little better idea. I suspect we're going to see all of this on World Series Day, but that's pretty much the update there. I finished.
Crispin's laughing at my response.
Christmas, yeah, the big fat no got a nice laugh. We need to get Bob to put a tab in there just for those 6 or 7 horses or 8 horses, whatever it is, so we can keep track of them all.
Oh, I just put them in my view horse thing.
Well, they're I think, as we all know, and the community knows, because there's been some repetition, is my brother got one out of this Man of War and Global Trot. Now, you mentioned that. I've got a horse, Foggy, out of Man of War that's not Global Trot, and out of Global Trot that's not Man of War.
Right.
They were average horses.
Yeah.
So I think there must be this magical connection every now and then between two horses that, because you look at Man of War and he's got a lot of unnamed foals. So it's not like he's cranking out like every horse is spectacular, and the same with Global Trot. So apparently when those two meet in the shed, it's just magic. And I think Foggy's coughing, so he had to
sorry, I had it. Yeah.
So, and I think there's some other, think about it, there's some Rhythm and Trilliums out there that aren't really special. They're good, but not special. So, but who knows? I think the sires have been flopped or swapped, and the mares will probably be swapped soon. So who knows what that next combination will be. But
and you suppose that is Bob changing those things to try to create another terrific combination, or is he trying to smooth things out so there are fewer of those terrific combinations?
You have to.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
The goal would be to, if we're gonna, I mean, sales rings are going to be a part of the show. I mean, part of the site, but I think maybe a sales ring. I don't know what the community pulse on that many coming out at a time that look that good are. But again, it kind of takes away from being able to replicate that in homebred. So I would assume if I were him, I'd be working on, it's a balancing act, amp it down, but still there are people that don't give a hoot about breeding. And so they still, you don't want it to be a home breeder to get good horses, or just settle for average sales ring horses, right? I mean,
but I wonder, how are those stables doing? The ones that shun breeding.
Shun breeding? Oh,
yeah.
Well, we'd have to ask them.
Yeah.
Come on, somebody.
They seem to be okay. Nobody seems to be beefing about it. They just choose not to breed. Now, I think in order to be a success at the game, you need to take advantage of all the different things. So, for instance, like if you're going to try to win Trainer of the Year, you need to race in every level.
That's exactly what Poncho
claiming,
said.
Or it's,
exactly what he said. He was very candid about it. Like, make sure you have horses for courses, horses for tracks, horses that can run all levels, including claiming. So that was very open and candid of him, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that he gave up some secrets.
Now
that we know that Chris is watching, there must be a secret or two that we can get out of the Christmas barn today, isn't there?
You would think so. He's pretty close to us.
Did you send him an invite to the?
I will if he'll come in.
Yeah,
I'll send him an invite. Get in here.
He's listening.
Yeah,
he's listening live.
Maybe we can swing him in for a minute.
Oh, he's gonna get the invite as soon as I can.
And anybody else that's around? What happened to all the Brits that wanted me to come on at 1:00, so they could pop in? I don't see any of them, Gary or Darren. They were all online too earlier. So I said, wow, we'll have a big tournament
Well,
today.
we didn't invite them.
Oh, I invited them during the week. I just didn't do it officially.
No, we
apparently.
haven't. They can't get in unless you
gotta
send them an
the
invite
link.
right
Well,
now.
they can still type over there like Chris did, right?
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, they still have contact. So,
That's true.
but that's all right. Be that as it may. This was the part though that I was going to leave open. So if anybody has any criticisms or comments about the game, Chris, you've been here so long. I'd love to hear what you have to say on mic or camera on this machine. I think he means no mic or camera.
No mic.
That's fine. You can just type and we'll respond. So we're just happy to have you aboard. We've been, I don't know how long you've been listening. Go ahead.
The things that you got the big event tonight, or was it this afternoon? I can't remember. The classic final. You have eliminators coming up. Of a yearling auction on the 31st. There's a lot going on. New season starting. So there's a lot to comment. But you always get that excitement when the new season's coming on because you get to start breeding, and he usually shuffles the sales ring, so you get fresh blood out of that. And then it's like a do-over, start over. Hopefully the 2-year-olds will race as well as 3-year-olds.
See, and I always have a feeling of apprehension because I'm afraid that my really good horses are going to suffer with the age change.
Well, only if you run them in the ground like Steve does.
Yeah, only if you do what I do. Yeah, that's about the only time you need to worry about it. I'm telling you, I must be like the only guy on the site who can't get a horse to run at 3 when it runs well at 2. So it was probably just me. So
well, just stop buying them until the last week of the 2-year-old season.
No, so what it was that I had lost my train of thought. It had to do with breeding, and no, I'll get it back. But it's the beginning of the season. Well, the end of the season leading up to it. I mean, that's all good. But I know what it was. So we had that issue that the times for the 3-year-olds went backwards. All right.
Yeah.
Now, okay.
That's gone.
So but it's gone, but it's not gone. And here's why: because even when it was doing that, so all you had to do was look for your 3-year-olds that didn't go backwards, that actually did have a little bit of a gain, and they would do better.
That was the peak. It was a peak racing age setting. He made them all the same.
Yeah. Okay. But here's the thing: if he made them all the same, then there shouldn't be those changes between the seasons necessarily, because he smoothed it out. So he keeps talking about how they're going to get better at 4 and they're going to get better at 5. I never heard of an age change between 4 and 5 before.
Are you kidding me?
Never.
Are you kidding me?
The 4 to 5 one, I got to admit, was and it's probably because I never have horses that make it to 5. Yeah. But I was not aware of the 4 to 5 person.
Okay, let's
I was
remember.
Definitely aware
relative.
Of 3 to 4.
It doesn't mean your horse improved and no one else's did. So
No. And I'm like I said, my horses very rarely get to 5, so I never noticed it. But
no, I'm talking to Foggy. I mean, so there. If you train a horse, you go mark down one of your 3-year-olds or all of them. It's up to you because I do this. I keep their old time and their new time. Absolutely, a 4-year-old is going to have his works improve. Does that carry over to the track? I can't say. I don't know. Works are works, right? But keep in mind, every 4-year-old gets some sort of boost. So, and I believe that's to make him to continue to be competitive with the 3-year-old and up group. So, and then yes, as a reward for 5-year-old, and I'm like Steve. This was the first year I think I had a horse reach 5, and it did improve. Had a pretty decent 5-year-old campaign, but ran like it did as a 4 and a 3-year-old. Now I notoriously sell in the past most of my good ones that aren't high conforms. And so when I go over to the 3-year, I'm basically left with my breeders that really couldn't race that well or claimers. So this will be the first year I have quality horses as 2-year-olds that I will see if they continue to be quality as 3-year-olds. But my one caveat is a lot of mine were late bloomers. And so they've only run 5 or 6 races. So I might, I won't know for sure if they just remain competitive or the rest of them were running down a bit. So I'm looking forward to it because this is my first shot at horses that might be actually in some of those series as 3-year-olds.
Do you actually think that there's a component where all of a sudden your horse will become the horse he's supposed to be, but only like on its 5th race?
Yes.
Or it's X the race, it's 10th race, it's 2nd race. So it's actually, you think it's born that it's going to be mediocre until it finally takes off? Because it seems to me that would be terribly counterproductive.
Well,
so
you have to remember, you might have a horse that works great, doesn't run great, so you've been running it the wrong class.
Right.
So because you think a 108.42 should be a blue blood or a high level maiden when it might be a 15 claimer.
Yeah.
And then
find out quick enough.
And then you put it where, you as you drop down, you should find that sweet spot. Or I don't know if there's just like an end game of a horse, if there's a beginning game that says the horse won't show its real stuff until race 5. It'll mature. Yeah. I guess you could call it the maturity rate. I don't know. Again, these are things that he would choose to answer. I think he's actually having a podcast tomorrow, or he was kicking the idea around to talk about the new season. So I think it's probably from noon to 8 p.m. or something like that.
From noon to 8. Oh, Lord.
Just kidding.
Jeez.
Just kidding.
He probably could fill 8 hours.
But so that's a good question if he wants to come on and answer it or address it. But I do think sometimes we are over and under. I assume the same thing's true. Maybe a horse shows its stuff in a 5 claimer and you think it's a stakes horse.
Yeah.
And you put it up to allowance or higher claimer, and then you realize, well, it's really just a 10 or 15 claimer. But I'm kind of new at this game, so
yeah, that's bad for morale.
Momentum.
Right. Yeah.
Confidence.
All that stuff.
Yeah,
confidence. Yeah, they all fall into place.
Confidence.
Yeah, so well, that I'm sure that'll be informational. The new BC structure, apparently, everybody's happy with.
I think the people that commented are happy. I think there's some questions lingering, which is good because if you put something out and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, it's great," then really I didn't read it. So you want to have some pushback.
Yeah,
and it's I think it was, again, listening to the people. Like, how do I get a horse to the finals that isn't dead? How can I get them in there it's shouldn't be just a volume game that you run a horse in every single stakes race so he earns enough points to get in the finals when he wasn't really competitive. I don't know. This is new for me, so.
Well, and it's like you said, all the big money stuff is at the end of the season, so there's some chance that your horse has already shot his thing for, early in the season.
Well, I think that was
isn't the same horse in the finals. What about if there was no degrading of the horse's ability until an age change? Let the age change be.
I don't like that.
Why have it be mid-season when you don't know that it's hitting or anything, and then you're dead for the later, later money races?
No one wants your horse Trillium to run 15 races at its best peak every time. And then all of a sudden at age change 3, it turns into garbage.
Well, not necessarily, but
garbage meaning
whatever
you have
changes,
to run it in allowance.
It could get better.
It's definitely a balance that you got to try and find.
Sure. But it's you want to promote 4 and 5-year-old racing, and there's no possible way you can get there. The horses are all dead, or they're geldings, because if they're not dead and they're decent breeders, they're not
Well-
going to be racing.
Well, we need some other opinions because
Yeah.
you see all kinds of, you see Poncho, you see Eddie, you see them running horses 40, 50 times. So we haven't been the ones that experience the longevity, but there are others that have. So we don't want to portray it as
All the
it's
freezer
impossible,
horses.
you know.
The freezer horses.
Well,
are
they can't be
interesting.
frozen if they run 40, 50 races.
No. I'm saying the ones that they're now specifically holding back for later on. All these freezer horses. They all seem to be
Well,
doing it.
Gary's are all
Sweet and
frozen.
Gary and yeah.
It's frozen. They won't. They can't be thawed out.
Right. Why not?
He completely forgot about them.
Oh, well, that doesn't. They're still there.
No, they're frozen.
Yeah.
They're no good. He's moving on to other horses. Hey, Bob just sent me a message.
I
He
mean,
wants to
I'm
know if you
looking
want him
at
to come
the.
in.
What?
Bob's back. Must be back. He wants to know if he can come in. I'm just kidding. The that link didn't go out again because it went out when you set the podcast up. So
That's what I said. I'm doing something at the very beginning that's not sending out the link.
no, we're setting our podcast up too soon. Is what it
Too
is.
soon. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
We need-
we
we need to repost our link.
Yeah.
just for kind of an interesting point. So I'm looking at the top 50 2-year-old horses, right?
Yeah.
The top
On-
50
on
horses. So
wins or what?
I'm looking at the wins, right? So
Okay.
the number one horse is Found My Winch. 11 starts, 8 wins. And this one doesn't fall into the category. It's still pretty fresh. It's still running high numbers. But if you look
Okay.
at the second place horse, Last Stand, 15 races. Look at its last 5 races: 108.95, 108.87, 108.93, 108.94, 108.88. So this is one of those horses that has run most of the season, won a lot of races, and now it's the end of the season and it's pretty much, it's pretty much shot.
Spent. Yeah.
And then you look at the next horse, Moonshine Grammy. This one might be another one of the exceptions because it's still throwing some 113s, but 113.94, 108.96. So I guess my point
these are
is
2-year-olds?
Yeah, if you look down these lists of 2-year-olds, 15 races are up. These horses are running 108.95 now, 109.95, 108.97.
That's what the older ones run.
They
Even when they
So
win.
I guess the
that's all
question is, for somebody that is in the know, will that trend continue or can they rebound? I don't know enough. Maybe we don't give them enough time. I don't know. This, like I said, it's my first time.
Right.
Yeah, we had talk about cycles yesterday, if you remember.
Yeah.
You and I discussed that the horse is running
But
cycles.
also keep in mind, just because it's not running stakes and allowance, don't mean it can't race.
True.
If
But
it's
I
a
mean,
breeder, if you're holding it
it's
for
a
breeding,
breeder,
then
yeah,
you're kind of
if you-
limited. But if you have a gelding that all of a sudden won't run stakes or high level allowance, then you still want to earn money on it. Just like Poncho said, you got to have horses from every class level. So now you have claimers.
Yep. That's how you win a title. You have to be involved in all of that. I had to do the year I did it. I had to do creates and every friggin' thing. I hated it.
Yeah.
It's so exhausting. I don't know how he does it, to be perfectly honest with you.
He told us how, oh man, he talked every other owner on a site into not doing it. His day is, 3 hours to enter horses.
Oh, it's brutal.
Yeah, wake up 3 hours early so you could get your horses entered.
Yeah, it used to take up my whole morning at just doing entries and stuff like that.
Yeah. It is fun though, having a lot of horses in races every day.
It is.
Yeah.
I haven't had so many run. It takes me an hour, and it's like at the end, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that's not quite exactly where it goes.
Tops
but
and pops now.
I'll put it in. What's that?
You're tops and pops now. Everybody's talking about you and you're racing and
Yeah,
you're doing well.
1
You
month.
may have to rethink this racing thing.
Yeah, I've had a good month. I'm not gonna lie about it.
Mm.
I've won, I think, 6 stakes, but only maybe a G2 and a G3, and then
Yeah.
4 others that were just called stakes. But
Mm.
I've enjoyed it.
Well,
Pancho told me he was coming for me.
It just goes to show you that you don't have to win 30 stakes races to be at the top of the standings for the month, though. You know, you can win 5 or 6 and just compete on every level and still be doing good. You know,
you can compete in wins, and you can compete when the monthly awards are based on wins. You can't compete on the overall, you know, in the old days where it was certain points for.
yeah.
Yes, but yeah, it's nice to see your little horsies doing well. I've never had so many horses that seem to go 2 and 3 wide and end up either winning or showing something at the end. So that's nice too.
Mm.
But like in everything goes up, must come down.
Stop it.
Mm.
Stop it.
What do you think of my bruise?
I can't see it, to be perfectly honest with you.
What?
Or maybe I can. Yeah.
Looks like
Yeah,
a big
all right.
mole.
How'd you do
that? 4 teeth being pulled.
Oh, really? It bruised you through to the outside of your cheek, huh?
You got a little,
2 of them were down here, and the other 2 were up top. So.
He got a little frustrated and punched you in the jaw to get you to settle down, or what?
No, he was pretty much standing on my chest, pulling. They said, "Boy, if it's true what they say about, there's some saying about your eye tooth and how long they are. It's gonna be how long you live or whatever." He's like, "You're gonna live to be 200."
Hey Dan,
right,
thanks for having me on, buddy. I gotta jet out here real quick.
Okay. Well, we're about done.
We're
going to hit the hour mark in 3 minutes, and nobody else has come in.
Classic? So I can put it up for you.
I'm sorry, what?
Do you want to talk about the classic?
I do not. I haven't looked it over, and I would be completely uninformed.
All right. Do you want to talk about me?
Yeah,
there's one thing that hasn't been brought up in your show yet.
Go ahead.
Forgotten Magic.
Forgotten Magic. Yeah, you need to put the. Is that her behind you there?
No, that's Secretariat.
Oh, same thing.
The second greatest horse of all time.
Same caliber horse. Yeah. Secretariat never did shit on here. So.
Hey,
yeah, good talk though. That's good. I have no problem ending it. We were full of content and it worked out good. Some good discussion. Hopefully somebody picked up something or learned something or has a thought that they should at some point share in here, but I guess it's not going to be today. So I'll say I'll look forward to Bob's tomorrow. I don't know if we can even promote it because I don't know if he said he's going to do it for sure or not.
Said he wanted to. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah. So I would be glad to participate in that. Oh, I'm watching a 5-3 come in at the spa.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, very nice.
Did you have it though?
8-1 over 1-9. Imagine. Wow, that's good stuff.
Well, good show,
all right, kid.
Foggy. Thanks for having
thank
us.
you. Yeah, thanks for your help, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.